Yes, we will have anointing of the sick after this Mass, so those of you that are here for that, please remain. Give me like 5 minutes to switch up. Why do we need deacons? That was a question I got 3 years ago when I first came, and Deacon Bill was here, and I had a number of people who stopped. Why do we need a deacon? Can't you do that stuff? You know, can't you can't do that job by yourself? What are you, too lazy to read the gospel? You know, what's going on? Why do we need deacons? Very interesting, because in our first reading today from the Acts of the Apostles, what's the matter with you apostles? You can't give out the food? What, you too lazy? Don't you, you don't have enough to do. We got to give you a job, keep you busy. Why do we need deacons? Part of the time we hear people talk about deacons being about service. And that's very important. But listen again to the reading on why the deacons were called. The wives of the Hebrew-speaking community and the wives of the widows of the Greek-speaking community and the widows of the Hebrew-speaking community were divided. The widows of the Greek-speaking community said, the Hebrew families, they're getting more food than we are. It's unfair. There was a division in the community. And so deacons were called to bring about unity through service. The principal ministry of the deacon community is to bring about unity in the community. And the vehicle, the tool that they use in doing it is service. We often talk about, when we talk about deacons, the symbol that we use is the wash basin and the towel from Jesus' washing of the feet at the Last Supper. And they're constantly reminded of this need to do service, need to be a part of the service of the church. And in the early years, deacons were the ones who administered the church. They were the financiers of the church. They were the ones who did the buying and the selling. They were the ones who took care of all the administration. And to this day, all the churches of the city of Rome, and of the Diocese of Rome, each one of them has a cardinal protector. That's his diaconal ministry. And when you hear them being appointed to their diaconate, even though they're an archbishop someplace, that means that they are overseeing the administration of one of the churches of the city of Rome, one of the ancient churches. They're constantly reminded that to be deacon is to promote unity. To be deacon is to bring about a deeper sense of community through the vehicle of service. Later on in this Mass, Dave Olwell will hear from Catholic Charities to speak about our annual collection on behalf of Catholic Charities in the Diocese of Monterey. It's very interesting because Catholic Charities actually began as a diaconal ministry. Catholic Charities in this country, and there's a similar ministry in almost every country of the world. Some of them call it Caritas, some of them call it Catholic Charities, but it's all basically the same thing. How do we as a national community take care of each other? And so it's an opportunity for us to genuinely reach out. But I said it began as a diaconal ministry because in Germany, in the early 1800s, people were looking and seeing that the church had become separated from the lives of daily people. The everyday lives of people. The church looked beautiful and did beautiful things. And the liturgy was wonderful and was all gorgeous. But it wasn't connected to the real life of everyday people. And they began to say, we need a way to bridge the beauty of the sacred with sometimes the ugliness of the everyday. And the diaconate, which was always been in existence, but the diaconate needed to be renewed so that it could once again promote unity through service. It took a while to do that, about 150 years, to make it actually happen. You know, the church is like a giant iceberg. We don't turn quickly. And so, you know, when you get something this big and this old, it takes time. And so the diaconate was renewed during the Second Vatican Council. But the Second Vatican Council didn't define it. They just simply said, we should do that. It was only Pope Paul VI who then said, okay, Vatican Council said we should do it, let's do it, and move forward with it. But it's always been, how do we create unity in our community through the vehicle of service? That's kind of interesting, because when Deacon Bill is preaching or teaching about the diaconate, he always reminds people that service of the community is something that belongs to every single one of us. Those of you that attended the Holy Thursday liturgy and participated in the foot washing, and so many people came forward to wash and to be washed, were reminded that service of each other is something we do by virtue of our baptism and our participation in the Eucharist. But if all of us are called to that, then some of us should be ordained to it as a living reminder of what it is that we are about. A living icon of what that is all about. And so we need deacons because we're human beings. Because in the broad spectrum of ministries in the church, the diaconate stands as a living reminder of the service that we are all baptized to, the service that we are all bonded to in Eucharist, and the unity that should be the fruit of that service. I ask you to pray for the deacon community of our diocese and of our church, but also to reflect. Are you being called to this ministry? Is this something, unity and service, something that you feel that you would like to commit a piece of your life to? When we first began to have deacons in this country back in 1970, it became a way of rewarding older men who had, done good, kind of an attaboy. And there was the third deacon in the United States was ordained over at Carmel Mission, a gentleman who was 70 when he was ordained and served by giving communion to the homebound for 4 years until he died. He had 6 weeks of formation, and Bishop Klintz thought that was enough, that's all you need. Now it's a little bit harder, and there are 5 years of formation, and it is something that we all engage in. It's a much bigger ministry. They're not dressed up, they're not ordained altar boys, nor are they junior priests. They are deacons, a unique and valuable ministry in the life of our church, one that constantly reminds us of the service and the ministry, the unity that we are all called to.